The Sonic series has tons of cool cities, some of the most iconic levels are even in cities. So today I'm gonna go through every city in the Sonic series to see which Sonic game has the best city, starting with Radical City from Sonic R mostly focuses on the roads. We do get to run by some buildings and see some of the city, though I wish we got to see a bit more. This one's going in B tier, and with that we're on to Station Square from Sonic Adventure is an instant leap in quality. The hub area is super fun to explore with a bunch of unique settings, like the resort, a hotel, and the sewers. Plus, all the levels feel super connected to the city. Emerald Coast starts at this beach resort, Casinopolis is in the downtown of the city, Twinkle Park has this super cool entrance with this elevator I really like, and lastly, Speed Highway sees us going through the whole city, and it even has this climactic landmark with this building you get to run down. Plus, there's a bunch of awesome boss arenas, like fighting in the middle of the city or even fighting in this really cool hotel room. And the first boss of the game is against Chaos in the middle of the city, and then the final boss is against Perfect Chaos in the destroyed city, which is a really cool full circle moment. The open area also has all these people, cars, and businesses to really make it feel like a lively city. Cities are huge and diverse with a lot of different things to see, so having that reflected in game is really cool. Station Square is definitely going in S tier. If you're enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe because it really helps a lot, and you should comment down below what your favorite fictional city is. So according to any online information I looked up, the city in Sonic Adventure 2 is Central City. However, that name wouldn't be given to it until later games. So for Sonic Adventure 2's case, it's kinda lame that the game doesn't actually give you the name of the city in the game. However, despite this, levels and cutscenes still give us a pretty good look at the city. We get to see the Central Square area and cutscenes. City Escape shows us the downtown area. The kart missions show us this highway on a bridge that's going into the city. Meanwhile, Radical Highway shows us a highway inside the city. Radical Highway is pretty high up in the sky, while Mission Street shows us more of the ground level. To make up for the lack of open area, there's billboards, screens, and cars everywhere. So even though we're not interacting with the civilians, it still feels like a bustling city. I was considering knocking this city down a tier because of the whole naming fiasco, but I feel like all the stuff we get to see of the city really outweighs that. So it's going up in S tier. And now we're on to Grand Metropolis from Sonic Heroes has this really cool green color, which really makes it stand out from other cities which usually go for the blank white aesthetic. The city has a really nice atmosphere, and we get to see more of the inside of buildings than the previous games, and we also get to see this power plant in the city. There's not quite as much to say about this one, but it's still really good. It's going in A tier. But now we're on to we don't get the name of the city from Route 99 in Sonic Advance 3, and we're primarily just on the road. It's a shame we don't get to see much of the city, but the atmosphere of the level is pretty good. This one's going in B tier, and with that we're on to Central City is back again, and there's 4 arenas here. Amy's Room, the Library, Battle Highway, which looks to be a section of Radical Highway, and we get to see this new section of the city called Night Babylon with Club Rouge. However, despite the variety, the areas we get to see are pretty small because they're just these little battle arenas. This one's going in A tier. With that, we're on to Westopolis from Shadow the Hedgehog has this really cool vibe of an alien invasion. The one thing holding this area back is the lack of visual variety. Westopolis and Lethal Highway are both great levels, but they also basically look the same and don't really have any unique or memorable landmarks. I only very recently noticed this Knights billboard in Lethal Highway though, that's pretty cool. Also, it is cool that the final boss takes place over the city. However, you're so high up that you don't really get to see any of the city, though the red foggy aesthetic is really cool. I wish we got to see some more unique parts of the city, but it's still just too cool to put any lower than A tier. But that's not the only city that Shadow the Hedgehog has to offer. Central City is back again, and it's one of my favorite levels in the game. We get to see more of how people are reacting to the invasion with these president cutscenes. Like, this scene with the president panicking builds a lot of atmosphere and tension, and whereas Westopolis was an invasion we weren't prepared for, Central City feels like an all-out war, with helicopters, tanks, trucks, and mechs everywhere, and an active, intense bomb threat all over the city. The level's also huge and feels like you're running all over the city. Also, as a bonus, the air fleet level takes place above the city. The only thing holding it back from S tier is that there's not a lot of unique or memorable areas to find when you're exploring, so this is going in A tier, and now we're on to Metal City from Sonic Riders feels very lively and energetic with all the cars and signs all over. This big tower in the center is also a really cool landmark, and I love this tunnel from the beginning of Night Chase. It would have been cool to see more of the city, but I feel like it still deserves an A tier, and with that we're on to Soleanna Castletown from Sonic 06 has a beautiful aesthetic. There's a lot of cool side missions and even some puzzles to enter some levels. I also like how many people you get to talk to, especially Sonic Man, he is peak. However, unlike Station Square, the levels you go to from here feel really disconnected. Wave Ocean feels more connected to this little village we never know anything about. Dusty Desert doesn't feel connected at all. Aquatic Base is the only one that really feels connected because of its lore of being under the city. And while I really like the level, it doesn't really show us much of the city. This is going in B tier. Let's see how its sister city does. Is it just me, or is it weird that it's called Soleanna New City and not New Soleanna City? The two levels you access here, White Acropolis and Radical Train, still don't feel very connected to the city. However, the open area is really cool. I like that you get to talk to gun soldiers, and it's cool how some of the side missions show you this highway area. Though what really saves Soleanna New City is Crisis City, the destroyed future of New City. This level is awesome. It feels like we get to see a whole bunch of the destroyed city. So this is going in A tier. It'd probably be S tier if we got to see a little bit more of the present day not destroyed city. And now we're on to Sand Oasis in Sonic and the Secret Rings is mostly desert and ruins and stuff, but at the very end we reach this really cool looking town. We only get to be here for about 20 seconds and no future level brings it back. That's pretty disappointing, so it's going down in C tier, and now it's time for... Wow, Central City is in a lot of Sonic games. There's some side quests here, and it's pretty cool to talk to people like the Gun Commander, but the area feels pretty small, and it doesn't feel like it has a whole lot to offer. It's going down in C tier. All the alien cities in Sonic Chronicles are basically at the same quality, so I'm not gonna go over each one individually. They're basically the same as Central City, but with more story stuff, and they are a bit bigger. The Rock one's the least cool. The Voxai one has the best story, though it feels the least like a city, and the Zoa one has the best aesthetics. They're all going in B tier. And next we're on to... Monopole from Sonic Rider Zero Gravity has these really cool tubes. I honestly wish we got a little bit of gameplay in them. I also really like this elevator they go in the opening cutscene. Plus the two levels we get here feel very distinct and like they're in different parts of the city while still feeling connected. The vibes in the rain here are peak. This one's going up in A tier. Next up is Sonic Unleashed, which has a lot more cities, and starting with... I love the aesthetic of Apotos. Also, as the first area, I get some extra cutscenes which help make it more memorable. I also love how the first level starts you off in this grassy field area, but then near the end of the level you cross this bridge and go into the city. After that, all the levels are great, but there's not a whole lot of variety between the different areas. I'm not going to mention it every time, but all the Unleashed areas feel very alive with all the people you get to meet. So this one's going up in A tier, and now we're on to... At first glance, Missouri is just this tiny little village with a really cool tree shop, but it's deceptively big. In the levels, we get to see this larger city-like area. Also, as a side note, I really like how the Gaia Gate is presented here. It really adds to the overall vibes of the area. This one's also going in A tier, and now we're on to... Alaska has an amazing atmosphere, though it's very small and we don't see much of it in the levels. At least it does feel like we get to see the whole thing. It'll be going in C tier, and next we have... Spagonia has one of the biggest open areas in Unleashed. It also has this really cool, like, underground area where you access Rooftop Run Act 3. And between the day and night levels, it feels like we really get to see the whole city. Running through the streets, across the rooftops, seeing these inside areas with the barrels. Plus, going up the clock tower is super cool in both levels. In the day level, it's a bunch of fast platforming, while it's a giant climb in the night level. This one's going up in S tier. And next we're on to... Chunnan has an awesome aesthetic, though we don't see very much of the city in the levels, since it mostly focuses on the area around the wall. This one's going in B tier, and next we have... The Empire City levels are awesome. I love how the city reaches above the clouds. And I like the part of the open area where you actually go to the levels, but the section where you're talking to people is way too small. Especially since it's supposed to be in a giant city. This one's going in A tier, and next up is... Shamar is another giant open area. Running through the market in the day stage is awesome. Though the night level doesn't feel like we're seeing much that we didn't already see in the hub area, this one's going in A tier as well. And next we're on to... Adabat is another one that seems pretty small at first, but then we get to see this larger section of it in the day stage, which is one of my favorite sections in the whole game. The night level doesn't have much of the village though, and Adabat is going up in A tier. Next up we have... Camelot Castle from Sonic and the Black Knight is actually a residential area. There's civilians and businesses here. It's really more like Camelot Castle Town. In Camelot Castle, we already get to see a bunch of the area. The main streets, the castle walls, these alleys, and this little underground area. Then we return here in Knight's Passage, where we get to see a lot more of the underside of the city. We also get to see rats. we even return to the underside of the castle for the final boss. Granted, we don't see much of the castle or the city in this final boss, but the level's already more than made up for that, so this is going up in S tier. And next we have... Metal City makes a return in Sonic Freeriders as a bonus level. It's almost one-to-one with the original. However, with it not having any story cutscenes and only being Metal City without Night Chase, it means we're not really seeing quite as much of the city, so it's gonna be going in B tier. Before we go over the main version of Sonic Generations, let's go over the 3DS version real quick. Station Square is only represented by Emerald Coast, and the only bit of Station Square we get to see is this bit of the resort at the beginning of Act 1. I do think these are good Emerald Coast levels, but as far as city representation goes, this is going in D tier. Central City is represented by Radical Highway. It doesn't add too much new stuff, though we do get to interact with the blimp here, and running on the side of the building in Act 2 is pretty cool. This will be going in B tier, and now it's time for the console version of Generations, starting with... Station Square is one of the only areas in Sonic Generations where we get to see multiple areas, with Speed Highway and the Perfect Chaos boss. In Speed Highway, we get to see a lot more of the interior of buildings this time around, and there's more cars on the actual highway part of the highway, and I really like this parking garage area after the building run. There's also a bunch of new billboards and signs here. That already would have gotten it in A tier, but the Perfect Chaos boss gives us even more. This time we actually get to do some more platforming in the destroyed sections of buildings. Station Square is going up in S tier once again, and now it's time for... Central City is represented by City Escape. I really like the new billboards and posters they added, plus there's some more interaction with the buildings during the platforming this time. This one's going in A tier, and now it's time for... We're back in Soleanna and City with Crisis City. We get to see a bit more of the inside of buildings, though overall the level feels smaller than the original. Probably because Generations has shorter levels than 06, so it'll be going in B tier, and now it's time for... We're back in Spagonia with Rooftop Run. This game mainly focuses on the stuff we saw in Rooftop Run Day from Unleashed, though we get some night level representation in Act 1. Climbing the clock tower in Act 1 is pretty cool, and you also get to go on this airship at the end. And while the concept of boosting up the clock tower in Act 2 is super cool, it's just way too short. The lasers usually only even get one chance to shoot. This one's going in B tier, and now it's time for... The Bygone Island Village from Sonic Boom has a neat atmosphere, but it also feels really empty. There's way too much open, empty space, and the only really notable area is this platforming section with these wheel thingies I like. This one's going down in C tier, and with that we're on to... Studiopolis from Sonic Mania has this super cool aesthetic where it feels like the Hollywood of the Sonic world. Well, an idealized version of Hollywood. There's all these screens and cars everywhere which really help with the city aesthetic. Act 1 is the main one that feels like a city though, admittedly. It's going in B tier, and with that we're on to... Another unnamed city, though unlike Sonic Adventure 2 they never went back and gave it a name, and this one being unnamed is a lot worse because of the loading screens. Because the loading screens just show the word city as if that's the name of the city. There's a lot of levels here, but not a lot of level variety. It feels like we're just seeing the same small part of the city for most of it, except this tiny bit of an underground area, and Redgate Bridge. And Redgate Bridge turns out to literally just be a straight line. Also, unlike Central City, the war feels like it's just going on in the background rather than you actually being in the war. All the Death Egg robots and gunfire is all in the background, and the only time you get to interact with a Death Egg robot is one QuickTime event. This one's going down in C tier, and now it's time for... Metropolis from Sonic Forces is already a surprisingly large step up in quality. I really like the beginning of Metropolitan Highway where we're inside this building, and Capital City is easily the best level in the game. The gravity getting flipped in all these different directions and these crazy infinite monsters all over the place are super cool. The null space section of the null space level should have been longer though, but the escape from null space where you gotta climb up the building is actually pretty fun. This one's going in A tier, and now it's time for... Wait a minute, is Spagonia the city or the country? Because according to the soundtrack titles, the area is titled Rooftop Run in this game. Whatever, I'm gonna call it Spagonia. So there's 3 Spagonia levels in this game: Market Street, Haunted Castle, and Sky Road. These are all great levels, and I love the high up view of the city you can get in them. This is going in A tier, and now we're on to... The unnamed city is represented by Sunset Heights in Shadow Generations. With the levels being longer than a minute now, the underground area of the city actually gets some time to shine. And Act 2 feels like we're seeing a whole new section of the city with this amazing rainy aesthetic. Plus the Death Egg robots are actually interacting with the levels this time. This is going in A tier, and with that we're on to... We're back in Radical Highway again, and this time we get to see it with some new aesthetics, like daytime and this really cool stormy aesthetic, and I love how we're flying around the city for the final boss. This one's going in S tier, and now it's time for the last city for today. This level is so cool. You get to see so many different sections of the city, and none of them feel rushed. I especially really like this underground area, and the finale where you're going up the tower accomplishes what the Sonic Generations version of Rooftop Run was trying to do, with its clock tower in Act 2. Call me crazy, and maybe it's a little bit of recency bias, but I'm putting this one in S tier. In the end, I really like a lot of these cities, even the low-ranked ones. Thank you all so much for watching to the end of the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.